How you doing, Cliff?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You're part of the group Finding Bigfoot, the show Finding Bigfoot. I think your job title to me is what's most impressive. You're an evidence analyst for the Bigfoot Field Research Organization.
Yeah, that's correct.
My first question, what in the heck is the Bigfoot Field Research Organization?
Oh, the BFRO, that's my friend Matt Moneymaker's group. And yeah, Moneymaker is his real last name. You can't change that because you're born with it, right? So yeah, Matt runs a group called the BFRO, and I help them out every chance I get. The BFRO is a loosely knit organization that spans not only the continent here with researchers in Canada and all 50 states, but also, a few people overseas that look into reports of Sasquatches to try to weigh their authenticity and also to document it. It's the world's largest publicly available database of Bigfoot sightings and can be found at BFRO.net. And again, I'm not the owner of that. I'm not pushing it,
Right.
but people should be aware of it because it's a wonderful resource.
So that's where if somebody thinks they've seen a Bigfoot, that's where they should go. People are seeing or claiming to have seen Bigfoot more and more now amid the pandemic. Why is that?
Well, if there is a correlation at all, then it must be because people are getting out into the wild areas to try to get away from their disease-ridden brethren, human beings, in the cities and stuff like that. And who can blame them? And really, people should be going to the woods anyway and the public lands that we have available to us because we have so much fantastic habitat for all the wild animals. And, it's good to get back to nature a little bit. It's just good for the soul. It's good for the body. It's good for everything. So people being out in the wilds gives them a much higher chance of seeing a Sasquatch than, say, like downtown New York or something like that. So if there is a correlation, that's where it lies.
Gotcha. So what's the official name, the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot?
Well, either one, really. The word Sasquatch was coined in the 1920s when this guy was working on the Chehalis Reserve, which is a reservation, but in Canada they call them reserves, up in British Columbia. And the word, the local people's name, the indigenous name for Sasquatch, you can't write in English. There's sounds in there that are too complex. You can't write them in English. Mm-hmm. So he anglicized it and turned it into Sasquatch, so we could write articles about it. And then the word Bigfoot was born in California in 1958 with some footprint casts in Northern California. So same animal though; it's just a different local name for him.
So, as an evidence analyst, what do you feel like is the most concrete piece of evidence that you have that proves that Bigfoot does exist?
For me, it's probably the consistency of the evidence. And for an example of that is in the year, about 2000, maybe it's 2001, but I think it was the year 2000, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a professional anatomist from Idaho State University, wrote a paper on Sasquatch footprints and noted that they seem to have a tremendous amount of flexibility in the mid part of the foot, which would be very, very different than human beings, right, because we have an arch. He noted that this is the same feature seen in chimpanzee and gorilla footprints as well as some extinct hominin footprints, like the Laetoli footprint tracks that were laid down by Australopithecines. And what he noted is that, I'm publishing this now in the year 2000, but if we go back to the very earliest Sasquatch footprint casts from the 1950s, they show this same feature. And it turns out that same feature can be seen in many casts, no matter who cast them or when they cast them or where they cast them. But yet that knowledge was not available to the public unless you were a professional and primatologist who nerded out on chimpanzee feet.
Right.
We didn't know about that, but yet there it is throughout the entire track database. And you can even see that feature in a small number of pieces of footage, like the Patterson-Gimlin film. You can actually see that animal's foot bend at the appropriate place. So to me, that's very, very compelling evidence.
So what... you strike me, and I could be way off base here. You strike me as kind of a historian kind of person. Like history is something.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. I got
really,
it. Yeah, I know.
I don't want to say nerd because there's other kinds of nerds out there that couldn't tell you who name 10 presidents. They couldn't do it. So there's a different type.
Well, yeah, nerd. I do have definitely a focused interest. So yeah,
there
absolutely.
You go. So is that if somebody wanted to get more involved with this kind of a program, is that a route you recommend people take if they're wanting to study something, to kind of study history and then kind of go in that direction?
Well, I think that if you want to study Sasquatches, even before you go to the woods, you should visit your library first and start reading books written by academics on the subject, like Dr. Jeff Meldrum's books or Dr. John Bindernagel's books or even John Napier's books. Dr. John Napier from the Smithsonian wrote a book on Sasquatches as well. So the library should be the first step on any expedition, I think.
So in terms of looking at Bigfoot, is it a male, female? Is it an animal? Is it a person? Is it some kind of an alien? What are we dealing with here anatomically?
It is a species of undiscovered primate. We call them relict hominoids. Relict is a term that means still surviving in small numbers, even though they're probably more widespread. It's a biological term. And, of course, hominoid is a fancy-pants word for a human-shaped thing. So they might be hominins, which means an offshoot of the human line at some point in our existence. But, yeah, some sort of relict population of human-shaped ape sort of thing is basically what they are. They're not paranormal. They're not UFO riding, shape-shifting, interdimensional whatevers. They are a perfectly normal species of animal that survives in small numbers across most of North America, really.
Okay, so if you had to maybe put a number on it, how many Bigfoots, I don't know how to say that one, are out there?
I would say in North America, I think a reasonable guess would be between 5,000 and 10,000, which isn't very much, by the way. And they put it in perspective. In my state of Oregon here, I live in Oregon, in my state there's 30 to 35,000 black bear. And I've seen about maybe a dozen of them here, like 9 or a dozen of them in Oregon here. So 30 to 35,000 black bear, and I'm talking continent-wide, and that includes Canada and Alaska because they're up there too. 5 or 10,000. That would make them one of the most rare animals in North America, by the way.
Wow, that's impressive. So what other... I'll call it a creature just to sum it up because...
Yeah, I think that's fair. Sure.
Your words are way too scientific for my vocabulary. I definitely can't spell them.
I'm a nerd, like I said. I gotcha.
What other creatures that are these mythical or, tall tale kind of creatures, like the Loch Ness Monster, for example? What kind of evidence or do you feel that they exist as well?
Okay, first of all, those animals we call them cryptids because you're talking about the general study of undiscovered animals, and there's a word for that called cryptozoology, the study of undiscovered animals. There are certainly a number of cryptids out there that do exist, I think, and there's evidence for them. I think these lake and river monsters, I think that they have a very high probability of being real. I've seen a few pieces of footage that I find pretty compelling, but, they don't leave footprints, so it's much harder to gather a bunch of evidence on those. Sure. And I think if you look overseas, things like the orang pendek, a small sort of bipedal ape animal in Sumatra, I think that they have a high probability of being real, as well as other Sasquatch or hairy hominoids or relict hominoids in places like China or Russia or even Australia and through Indonesia. Southeast Asia actually is thick with reports of similar animals. So I think all of those have a very high probability of being real.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Cliff, you have been enlightening. It's been refreshing to talk to you. I'm super stoked now about Finding Bigfoot. I can't wait to check this out.
Yeah, Finding Bigfoot, the search continues, streaming anytime you want to watch it on Discovery Plus, where you can find us there.
Awesome. Cliff, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to talk to us, and good luck on your Bigfoot adventures.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.